Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. This week we're going to be exploring what it takes to succeed. And for me, this is a question I've been asking personally and professionally for over 25 years. And one of the first big insights I had about it, I had over 20 years ago, and it was just that when it comes to creating results in our lives, most people are pretty much exactly where they ought to be. And what I mean by that is, over the years, I've rarely seen anyone who consistently outperforms their own efforts. So on the whole, life doesn't really lift people up who haven't earned the lift, and it doesn't really hold them down when everything else is pointing towards success. Now, that's in a way the good news. Now, the perhaps less good news is that as much as it would be really cool if investing time and energy was all it took to succeed, and as much as it would be in some ways really cool if investing time and energy didn't matter at all and you could just attract it with your mind, there actually are multiple variables that contribute to the level and quality of the results that we produce. And in my experience as a coach, the more you understand these variables and how they impact your results, the more that understanding in and of itself becomes a critical variable in your own pursuit of success. So here are 6 of the key variables I've seen and a little bit about how they impact our results. And over the course of the week, I'm going to share a 7th variable, but I'm also going to talk about how to work with all of them. So the first variable is starting place. So you might have heard the expression, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And that's technically true. But when it comes to success, where you start makes a huge difference. A gazelle is going to outrun a cheetah every time if the gazelle only has 5 yards to go to safety and the cheetah is starting 100 yards away. Or when I was a kid, I remember Rosie Ruiz running the Boston Marathon, winning the Boston Marathon for a little bit until they realized that she started about a mile from the finish. She actually started, took a cab, got out, and then ran the rest of the way. In a similar way, when I was trying to break through as an actor in London in the early 90s, my dad said something to me that pointed to just an intuitive understanding of this variable. And he told me that if he could, instead of having been a mechanical engineer, he'd come back as a famous actor or director so that he'd be able to give me a leg up in the business. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't succeed without nepotism or you can't succeed without a leg up. It just means that having a leg up where you start has a huge impact on how quickly you get where you're off to get. And, well, I did actually get from my dad a pretty great start because I got to watch an amazing role model in action. Where I've wound up actually comes down more to my understanding of some of the other key variables. And the second one is your investment of time and energy, as we've talked about. So if you're looking to become a millionaire in a month, if you're looking to build a successful business from scratch in 90 days and you've never built a business before, the bad news is it doesn't work that way. Literally, I have never seen it work that way. And I know of no way around that one. If you want to produce results and you're not starting at the finish line, you're going to need to put in the hours. But how enjoyable that is and what you do with those hours is part of the third variable, which is strategy. So while time and energy, or what we would normally call effort, is important, it also has its limits. And one of my favorite Tony Robbins quotes is when he said, if your goal is to see the sunset and you're continually traveling east, you've got a significant performance challenge. And an effective strategy is a huge part of success. But the best strategy in the world still needs to be executed effectively. And one of the things you have to take into account with that is the fourth variable, which is your level of skill in relation to the level of challenge. So here's a scenario I sometimes give people on a training. 2 tennis players, they're about to play their first match against each other. One of them is undefeated to date, 50 wins, no losses. The other one is just under 500. He's 123, lost 27. Which one would you bet on? Now, if you understand this variable, you're going to wait to see who they scored their victories against and who they lost to. 50 wins against school children don't tell us a lot about somebody's level of skill. 23 wins against ATP Tour players speaks volumes. So when it comes to creating results, the arena we're playing in is as significant a factor as our current level of skill. Some jobs are harder than others, some tasks more challenging, some fields more highly competitive or involve more specialized knowledge. Now, skills can be developed both in and out of the arena we're looking to apply them, but even when we get the knowledge, we develop the skills to meet the challenges, nothing great's going to happen if you rely solely on your own efforts. And that takes us to variable number 5, which is other people. No worthwhile endeavor has ever been achieved without a community or a team of other people who are knowingly or unknowingly involved in assisting and offering support along the way. And most people intuitively recognize that, right? And this myth of the self-made man, the self-made woman, you ignore this at your peril. If you're going to do something truly worthwhile, you either need to be a freaking genius or you need to learn to play well others. And even if you are a freaking genius, at some level, you're going to have to learn to play well others if you want to do well in life. Now, here's the thing. You can be off to a great start. You can put in the hours. You can have a great strategy on a level playing field with the support of the other members of your tribe. And there's still another variable that's going to make or break your efforts over time. And that's what I call the random factor. So Nicholas Nassim Taleb, who is an economist, and he's written at length about the very human tendency to be fooled by randomness, which is actually the title of his first book. And whether you call it luck, you call it fate, you call it stuff happens, right? There's no doubt that sometimes, with the best will in the world, your best laid plans will go astray. And sometimes, even the most stupid, ill-conceived idea can work out. So I'm not suggesting you don't look back to see what you could have done differently, because you got to do that in order to learn. But if you spend too long trying to create a predictable pattern in the world to absolutely know up front what's going to work and what isn't, you're not taking into account that we live in a world of infinite possibility. And you're going to bump into the random factor more and more. So here's a simple way of putting it. The mind wants to create structure out of chaos, even if it has to bend the truth in order to do it. So if we fall for our own thinking, we get to pretend we live in a neatly ordered universe with each effect having a single discernible cause, and if we can just figure out the right things to do and do them right, everything's going to work out the way we want to every time. Now, I don't know anyone who actually lives in that world. So here's another option. If you can embrace the chaos of the unknown, which isn't always as chaotic as it seems, you might find that the random factor becomes your biggest ally in your pursuit of success. So your homework for today is just to review these variables, right? Just think about which ones do you have covered in your own pursuit of success and which ones are just, you're up against. So your starting place, the amount of time and energy you invest, your strategy, your level of skill and knowledge in relation to the challenge, how you work with other people, and the random factor. And we're going to look tomorrow at sort of what the most highly leveraged variable is. In other words, where to put your attention to get the most for the least. Until then, have fun, learn heaps, and I'll talk to you then.